back at Twin Peaks in Davie. Josh Appel is here. He, of course, a broadcaster for the NFL nationally on Sports USA. He's also the public address announcer for the Marlins at Lone Depot Park. I was driving down to Twin Peaks today on 95. Billboard for the Marlins at opening day, March something.
Yeah, 28th.
Be here before you know it. Be here before you know it. You sound very proud.
I am. I'm excited for baseball season.
All right. Well, we're not going to talk about it today. What? I'll ask you. We just kind of ended the last segment saying what could derail Mahomes and Andy Reid other than injury. Like they're underdogs this postseason, and they just showed you it doesn't really matter. So now you get to next season, future seasons. Like what can't they do?
I don't know. And I saw somebody point out that this wide receiver class in this coming draft is very deep. So they're going to get another guy for that offense. Rashee Rice came on strong this year. Kelsey still got another couple years left. They have a running back in Pacheco. They have a really good defense. Like, this was the worst Chiefs team that he's had. And they just won the Super Bowl and turned it on in the second half like it was nothing. Like, they needed 2 drives from him at the end of the fourth quarter to tie it. And then, of course, in overtime to take the lead. And it was like nothing phases that guy. They sent an all-out blitz at him on one of those third downs. He beat it like it was nothing. You drop back in coverage. He beats it like it's nothing, or he takes off with his legs. Yeah. He is impossible to defend. And you give him a defense like that they have. I mean, I don't see how this stops anytime soon. But, I feel like we always say that when, in the moment, right after it happens. But it's been 6 seasons he's been in the league, and they've been to 4 Super Bowls now. He's won 3 of them. It's crazy.
What about salary cap? Then they can't keep
but they weren't able McDuffie. To keep. But they already weren't able to keep, including their best receiver, Tyreek Hill, and
they won back-to-back. Tyreek Hill, who was an MVP candidate this year, he as the Dolphins did okay when he didn't play, but he was in the MVP conversation all year. They traded an MVP at that skill position and they back-to-back Super Bowls. That is crazy. And I saw this tweet. This is from OptaStats. Patrick Mahomes is the only NFL quarterback in the last 30 years to go 8 for 8 or better with 27 or more rushing yards on a single drive in any game, regular season or postseason, and he did it in overtime in the Super Bowl.
Amazing.
We all knew what was going to happen when overtime started.
There was no doubt.
Honestly, I don't care who got the ball first. And I know it was a mistake. I didn't care who got the ball first.
At least give yourself a fighting chance. Because you know what? If for me, Kyle Shanahan, let's say you go down and score a touchdown. Do you need to go for 2?
I was thinking the same thing.
You have to be thinking they're going to come. We all knew they were going to go down and score. So now you're thinking, do I have to preemptively go for 2 because I might lose this game if they get down there and decide to go for 2? It's why that decision is maddening.
They didn't know the rules.
Oh, no. That was so obvious.
Didn't know the rules. Yeah. And I didn't know the rules either, but I'm not the head coach of a team in a Super Bowl. I think that the juxtaposition of the Chiefs players saying, yeah, we went over this stuff all the way back in camp at the beginning of the season, and obviously they were fresh and they have meetings every week just about the different rules, to Kyle Juszczyk and Eric Armstead saying, yeah, I learned about the rules on the Jumbotron in overtime. That is not a good look for the head coach.
Not at all.
And it's not an indictment on his ability generally as a head coach. He's clearly one of the best, 2 or 3 coaches in the league right now. Been to 2 Super Bowls as a head coach and has had 2 excruciating losses to Patrick Mahomes and the Chiefs, but not knowing the situation there is crazy. And Hawk, you bring up a great point because, he's Shanahan after the fact, and others are trying to find his train of thought for taking the ball first. Say, well, if you get to the third possession, then it's sudden death and you get the ball first there. But to your point, Hawk, if I'm the Chiefs or if I'm the Niners and I get the ball second after a touchdown, why am I going to take the chance of giving the ball back to them? I can end up by getting 2 yards here.
And by the way, if you're Kansas City, you already had a situation where they had to stop you. If they stop you, they win the Super Bowl. You needed a couple yards. You can get it.
Yeah.
I think to your point where like they were killing them on blitzes, but in the fourth quarter and overtime, I think that Steve Wilkes and the 49 defense got way too conservative because the 4 wasn't getting home anymore. You're going to just let him sit and pick you apart. At least make him make quick decisions. Do something. There was a time where Shanahan called a timeout. I mean, you could tell they were about to blitz, and Shanahan called a timeout. And then when they came out of timeout, they were 2 safeties deep, 4 shell. I'm like, you're just going to sit and let Patrick Mahomes eat you up all game.
I wonder what the feeling internally is with the 49ers, where you have Nick Bosa, all-pro pass rusher, and you have Chase Young on the other side. And the tackles in Kansas City, not the greatest. I mean, Jawan Taylor and Donovan Smith, they're solid NFL starters, but they are nowhere near like the upper echelon of offensive tackles in the league, especially in pass blocking. And they couldn't get home, those 2 guys, the entire game. And it almost kind of reminded me of like the conversations we have about Bradley Chubb last season and how it's like so close. I mean, you were talking about your Bosa prop and how close he got every single time.
Millisecond.
And credit to Patrick Mahomes for feeling that. He's so good at that, feeling pressure and getting rid of the ball. But like Nick Bosa is getting paid a lot of money. Chase Young is getting paid a lot of money. And they are supposedly, or they are, 2 of the best at that position. And if you're not going to rush 4 and get home against that team, against those tackles with those pass rushers, I mean, you see the result.
Who would you rather have as your quarterback, Brock Purdy or Tua Tagovailoa?
Am I taking contract into this equation?
No.
I'd probably lean Brock Purdy at this point. I've seen him get to a Super Bowl. I saw his
and hold his own.
Right. I saw his Super Bowl run end last year on a freak elbow injury in the NFC Championship game. And I love Tua. I think he's a really good quarterback. I think he should get extended. All these things need to be said, because anytime you take a guy or say something that is like
right, it immediately means you hate the other guy.
I like Tua. I think him and Brock Purdy are very similar players. One's lefty, one's righty, obviously. And yeah, like I think they're very similar, but the proof here is the results. I mean, Brock Purdy back-to-back years, and it's a championship game and a Super Bowl appearance. Like, to me, that's separated.
So, Lana, who you taking? I guess there's probably no question for you, right?
No, honestly, I think Tua is a better quarterback, and I think Brock Purdy is more. You know, when they say Tua's a game manager, he's just a system quarterback. To me, that is Brock Purdy. Like, he can get you to that game. Is he going to beat Patrick Mahomes? No. Is he going to win you a game just based on his ability to be great? I don't think he has that in him. I think Tua has a bit of that in him. I don't think Tua can ever beat Patrick Mahomes or Joe Burrow or Josh Allen in a big playoff game. I still don't think that's possible, but I would take Tua, no contract involved, like just based on who's a better quarterback.
You're just picking like you're in PE and you're just picking guys.
I think Tua is clearly a better quarterback than Brock Purdy.
But the thing I would push back on that, Solana, though, that can Brock Purdy beat Mahomes in a big game? Like, end of the fourth quarter, like he drove them and got them the lead with 150-something left, and then in overtime got them the lead. So he's putting them in positions to win. I guess the difference there would be, all right, he went and got 3 both times, and then Mahomes drove down and got 6. So I guess that's the difference. But, like, you have to give Purdy credit. He wasn't the sharpest we've seen him last night. Give credit to Steve Spagnuolo and the Chiefs' defense. But, I mean, he still had that team up twice late in the game.
Is there a similarity, though, to like Ryan Tannehill taking Tennessee to the AFC Championship game, but it's Derrick Henry? Like, if you don't have Derrick Henry, is it because I'm watching CMAC highlights on the monitor behind you?
But I think it's all of it, though. Like, I don't think you can say, like, I don't know if Sam Darnold is their quarterback if they're playing in the Super Bowl last night.
I'm not saying he's not good. I'm just saying, is it so heavily weighted to Christian McCaffrey and Ayuk and Samuel? And
because in that Detroit game, Brock went crazy on that last drive.
Yeah.
Had a terrible 3 quarters, going crazy on that last drive. Had some good drives going, to your point, a very heavy run approach when they were being successful. When they threw the ball 8 out of 11 times, they weren't scoring any points. Right. So Brock can't put it on his shoulders. But the thing would kind of be where it's funny, because to that point, if Tua's a 49er last night, they still get beat.
Right.
But I also watched Brock Purdy go to the Super Bowl, and like what Lana you just said, you know that Brock Purdy can't beat Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter. I've watched Tua lose to Patrick Mahomes in the fourth quarter 2 games already this year, in London and then in the playoffs. Like, He doesn't have
But
those
if
big fourth
Tua
quarter
was
drives.
the Niners quarterback last night, remember there was that
Same
span
game.
where they were letting Purdy throw instead of, continuing with the run game. Is Tua a better passer? You know what I mean? Like maybe.
I feel like we're splitting hairs here.
They're
maybe.
very similar. I think that's what we're getting at.
Maybe. Because
Are they both top 15?
here's the point.
Yeah.
I'm assuming Brock Purdy is going to be the Niners quarterback for a long time.
Mhm.
Can they, with him, win a Super Bowl?
Well, I think the thing for them would be, especially Kyle Shanahan, all right, I got there with Jimmy Garoppolo. I got within a game last year in a ridiculous injury luck with Purdy and then the backup in the game in Philadelphia last year. And then I just got there again with Purdy this year. I think he's their guy. I think Shanahan loves a guy who's going to do what he asks him to do, can run the offense at a high level, and get it to the guys that just basically play point guard. Now, when it's time for Brock to get his contract, some of those guys are obviously going to have to move on to somewhere else because they can't pay him. But I think Shanahan and Purdy are attached like.
But in other words, they're a Super Bowl, potentially a Super Bowl winning team. They're your favorite in the NFC going into next season.
They are the favorite, period.
In the NFL.
Yeah, they've already put out the odds. They are the favorite going into next year.
I don't know. Like with Shanahan, can you just run it back? Can you just run it back? They're gonna run through the NFC.
Well,
they're gonna go into like the Detroit Lions and Green Bay were up on them at half. So there is some competition in the NFC. You just run it back and say,
well, is it as simple as saying, yeah, we run it back because I made the wrong call in overtime. I made the wrong call. And if I call that the opposite, maybe we win. Maybe we're in the position at the end to win. And maybe also, a blunder. Was it the punt?
Yeah.
Like, was it just if that doesn't happen and KC doesn't get the ball deep in our territory in that particular moment, like maybe they do win that game.
And I would also say that, yeah, they can run it back because you look at the gauntlet in the AFC compared to what you have to go through in the NFC. It's a lot different.
Baltimore.
Like you got Goff and Baker Mayfield this year played well for the Bucs, but and Jalen Hurts when they're clicking, that's it. We always talk about, well, where do you rank Tua in the pantheon of quarterbacks in the AFC? And it's tough. But Tua had obviously played at a high level this year. There's probably 4 or 5 guys in front of him, including Mahomes, Joe Burrow, Lamar Jackson. Like there are so many guys, Josh Allen, that you have to go through in the AFC where the path is so much more difficult in that conference than it is for the Niners in the NFC. Not to say that it's not hard, but it's significantly harder in the AFC.
Is there any doubt after last night that the NFL is king?
No.
I mean, that game, you couldn't have asked for a better finish to a Super Bowl. Like you saw, I think at the end of the year, they showed all the television shows. And I think the NFL had 97 of the top 100 shows during the year. And then you get to a championship. And how often does a championship actually deliver or exceed on the expectations? Like I watched that and I was just like, and I love NFL more than any other sport. I like football season. I like NFL more than college football. That's just my wheelhouse, those, 17 games and then the postseason. I watched that last night just kind of in amazement. I love the Super Bowl, but then you get sad, the next day or whatever, because it's going to be till August again before you're seeing football. But is there any doubt that NFL is the king of the sports world?
How can there be any doubt after last night, after really the whole season and with just the NFL, the way they've grown over the last however many years? Everybody makes plans on a Sunday you just make plans around the Super Bowl, whether you're going to watch at home, you're getting home, finishing whatever you got done earlier in the day, and you're getting home in time to watch, or you're making a plan to go over to somebody's house or go to a restaurant like Twin Peaks to watch the game. Like it is obviously a cultural event here. And I sent you this tweet, Hawk, earlier. It's not just people watching on TV. Richard Deitch tweeted out that on Westwood One, the national radio broadcast,
we aired it on 560.
25 to 30 million people over the course of the game will tune in to that radio broadcast, in addition to however many 50-something million, probably more, that watch it on TV. It's crazy.
And
a third of the country.
Gambling not hurt it at all.
It's changed everything for their benefit.
For their benefit. Watching pregame shows, and they're bringing on Anita Marks to talk about the over Christian McCaffrey catches. I was like, this is wild.
I mean, you have people tuning in for just the. Sometimes people like to see the national anthem just because they usually have a famous person singing it. And I know that betting on the anthem isn't something that's a new phenomenon, but now that betting is so accessible, you got everybody on it if there's a line that gets offered. And you're tuning in for the freaking national anthem to see whether it goes over 89 and a half seconds.
Coin flip. We had the marketing manager for BetMGM or Bet Online on with us last week, and he said, you will never hear in a sports book a bigger eruption. Doesn't matter if there's a kick return for a touchdown. You will never hear a bigger eruption than after the coin flip, because half the people start their gambling night with a win, and half the people start their night with a loss.
I was listening. I left the Heat game. I'm listening to all that stuff in the car on the way home to go watch this game. I'm listening to the coin flip. I swear, if you just took the reaction from the crowd after the coin flip, you would have thought it was the game-winning touchdown drive by Patrick Mahomes, because the eruption when it was heads was insane. Insane.
It's crazy. It's really, it's got that holiday feel to it where every single thing about it just delivers. But last night was such a spectacular finish. Like, I was just in awe when it was over. I'm like, oh my God, like that doesn't happen. You know what I mean? Like your expectations are always one thing. And then you're like, well, it was a good, you knew that they weren't going to, like, that could have gone either way.
We were how many seconds away from double overtime in the Super Bowl?
Right.
Like, crazy. And what's even more odd is that, like, the first half wasn't all that entertaining. Third quarter, Niners couldn't do anything. Kansas City obviously got back into the game. But that fourth quarter and overtime, like, that is why you watch this. And I don't know how Vegas does it. The over-under on the game.
That's what Crowder was
47 and a half is what it closed at, and they finish at 47?
Yeah.
How is Vegas?
Deep state.
I don't know how deep the state is, but it's wild how accurate they are.
It's unbelievable.
What?
Well, they weren't that accurate on Fred Warner, but
what was Vegas like when you were out there last week?
Crazy,
as crazy as you've ever seen Vegas.
How did you get around?
Oh my goodness, the taxi
there was so
lines
much
and the Ubers. It was like probably Thursday. The taxi lines would be 100 people long.
Wow.
It was wild. We had to end up paying some dude $100 to take us 0.8 miles.
Because I was seeing on Twitter to go 1 mile on the strip was an hour.
Yeah.
Yes, it was crazy. The tables 3 deep. I was telling I think OG I was staying on, might have been Josh. The high limit room.
I can see how OG and I could be confused for each other.
Yeah, big and masculine, beautiful men. But I'm like, okay, well, I'll bet a little more
in the
high
limit room because then there's not all the hoo-ha.
Sardines packed in there like sardines. You have to leave the high limit room to go get a drink in the regular casino to go back in the high limit room. I watched NFL All Pros, current players, looking around for waitresses, sitting there with $100,000 on the table.
It was insane.
To your point, it was the busiest I've ever seen Vegas.
Busiest I go for out there, fight for anything.
It was wild, and just famous people walking around everywhere.
That is wild, man. What did you think
of? I hung out with Kevin from The Office.
Did you really?
Whoa!
Kevin from The Office.
How did you know?
Somebody said it. They were like, "That's Kevin from The Office." I don't know his real name.
That's Brian Baumgartner.
Yeah, big dude. He's very cool, down to earth. Talked to me, talked to my wife for like 30 minutes, just messing around.
He's the highest grossing celebrity on Cameo.
He's cool as hell. He gets after it. Me and him, we were going drink for drink, but yep, talked to Kevin for The Office about half an hour.
That's cool as hell.
Yeah.
That's the best celebrity running there is. What'd you think, Appel, of Usher and the halftime show?
So Solana and I are about the same age.
Yeah.
I knew every single song. And I was saying to you guys earlier, I like a halftime show that I know the songs, I could tap my toe to and like just jam out to the songs that I know. So my bar isn't necessarily like the highest. I enjoyed last night. Not the best Super Bowl halftime show ever. Certainly not the worst one. Is just solid, enjoyable work from Usher. My one criticism is that he tried to pack in so many songs into the whatever window that he only did some of the hits for like what felt like 20 seconds.
And if he's going to pack in that many songs, do some that people know, right? Does he have songs that people know? But does he have any songs that people would know?
Like award-winning songs.
Well, why didn't he do those? Seems like an odd choice by him.
He did his new album.
Yeah, why did he do all new tracks? That's an odd choice. I mean, just do one old hit.
Oh, you're
So
crazy.
you tapped your toe, Appel?
A lot of toe tapping.
A lot of toe tapping.
Tapping to Usher.
You call that jamming out, huh?
Jamming out. I love to tap my toe and jam out.
Did you rank it like anywhere near? What's your favorite Super Bowl halftime show ever? Do you have one?
I'm a big Red Hot Chili Peppers fan, so I loved a few years ago when Bruno Mars and the Chili Peppers did their collaboration.
That happened to be a great halftime show.
Yeah, Bruno was great. I think the Lady Gaga halftime show in Houston
Lady
does
Gaga.
not get enough credit.
Did you see her in the suite when they showed her?
Yep.
Yeah.
All right, let's take off the eye makeup. Like, what are we doing
She
there?
had on a superhero mask.
Right. Like, what are we doing?
Laga.
Like, so you're so concerned that people might not know you're Lady Gaga, that you dressed up like her with the eye stuff? Like, why don't you just hold a sign? I'm Lady Gaga. If you're so concerned that you're not going to be recognized as Lady Gaga.
Is this the 2024 continuation of the old Lady Gaga I Gotcha from
Pretty much. Pretty much. Like, why are you looking, Solana?
Hawk, I mean, she literally wore an outfit made of meat to a Grammys once. Like,
No, I got you.
This
This
was
is
her toned
sporting
down.
event.
This is her toned down.
That's her night, the Grammys. That's her industry. Like, okay, look the part. You're in a football game. Like, if Gene Simmons were to go, should he dress like Kiss?
Yes.
Because he what
Stick
are
the tongue out the whole
what are we doing here, Lady Gaga? Like what?
She's really not recognizable if she's not wearing anything.
That's
crazy.
what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So you're so concerned you're not going to be recognized as Lady Gaga. I got to put on my Gaga makeup.
Come on.
She's not recognizable.
She's not recognizable.
She's an actress. She acts, and she was in one of these shows I watched one time. I didn't know it was until the little credits ran.
Mm-hmm. I wouldn't recognize Lady Gaga if she didn't have that eye makeup
she could
on.
be sitting in Twin Peaks right now. I'd ask her if she want an autograph.
Just so you know, she has 56 million Instagram
I'm not
followers.
saying that she's not
definitely
successful.
recognized.
Yeah, but not as recognizable without that makeup. Like would you give me this? Would you give me this? Denzel Washington. You will recognize him whether he's dressed like the guy from Training Day or not. Whether he has a little beanie on from Training Day or not. Like, you'll recognize him.
Sure.
I don't think everyone would recognize Lady Gaga. I know I wouldn't if she didn't have the eye makeup on.
But
she always wears weird stuff.
You love Denzel Washington. Like, you love his movies. You don't love Lady Gaga. You don't consume her music. You don't consume all the stuff that she's in. So, like, your point doesn't make any sense because, yeah, you love Denzel Washington. Of course you'd recognize him. But somebody who doesn't love Denzel Washington but loves Lady Gaga would recognize her.
Stop it. Everybody
Look at
recognizes
her.
Denzel, whether they like him or not.
She works at Best Buy.
Right, she's an ordinary looking woman.
If you didn't know that was Usher performing at halftime, would you recognize that was Usher?
I would have.
Would I have recognized? Yes, Usher, I would recognize. Certain people I
But you
would
don't know
not.
any of his songs. So how do you recognize
I do. I just didn't play any of them last night. I'm sure I know some.
It's just people that look normal. She looks
normal. She looks like an
person.
average woman. Yeah. So she's got to put the eye makeup on because she wants to make sure that she gets, to the front of the fondue line.
Honestly, I think that's why she does the meat dresses and things, because she knows that she looks just normal. It's nothing extravagant. She's a great actor. She's a millionaire. All that stuff has all the
got poker face.
She needs to do something with her poker face to make her not look like she works at
poker face.
Works at the Walgreens.
Face. Poker face.